Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about our guest today. We met in October, became just fast friends, and our synergy is just like off the hook. I'm going to introduce her to you in a second, but before I do, click on the little subscribe thing down there and click on the bell, and you'll be subscribed to the podcast, and you'll also get a little reminder every time a new episode pops up. So let's take care of that housekeeping piece first. So without further ado, I'm just going to bring on Amy Collette. So, hey.
Hey, Iris. So great to be here with you.
It's so great to be here with you. And it's so funny because I think I kind of just like polished over that. But Amy and I met, we're in the Dames. Everybody knows about the Dames who listens to this. And we met, I think, like the first night of it. And we were like, let's just go have dinner. Like, we just like immediately clicked and we said, let's just go have dinner. And 5 hours later, here we are. And we just clicked. And our synergies are just a little ridiculous, actually. I mean, it's just...
It's true.
It's just like, and I mean, I think it was like the other night, I was like, I really need to like get hold of Amy. And you literally text, and I looked at my wife and I was like, you can't make this shit up. Like, I just showed her the phone, and she just, and nothing surprises her with all the woo stuff. So, so how are you? Happy New Year. Actually, this is
Happy New Year. Yes.
February, but
first time I've seen you this year. So yeah, things are off to a good start, kind of mellow. I decided not to do all the planning, goal setting, do everything. I'm easing in.
There you go.
How about you?
Me too. It was like a weird, like Q4 was weird for me. Because there were like a lot of things that were in place and then a lot of things that fell out of place, like within a 2-week period. And it was like, okay, but I'm a firm believer that when certain things leave, it opens up room for the right things to come in. Right. So yes. That's kind of what happened, but I had to keep reminding myself that, it's like, don't, just stay positive. And then, this week was just very fortuitous, and I signed a client who really our values align and our mission aligns, and it was such a beautiful thing that I kind of feel like I don't think I want to work with anybody that isn't the case anymore, because it was such an amazing call that led to other stuff. So, but do you have a word for the year? Do you ever do a word for the year?
I do have a word for the year.
What is it?
So I pulled a card from Kim Wood's deck, Oracle deck,
yeah,
and it was Deepen.
Ooh,
which just really, it was one of those kind of like, wow, blow your hair back moments that it just felt really right. So it's like, for me, deepen means a lot of things. Like, it means deepen into my own knowing and wisdom, deepen into wonder and awe.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so instead of having all the answers, like, I wonder how this is going to look. I wonder how this is going to work out. And it just helps me stay open, and go to deeper levels than I might have if I'm stuck in my head.
Ooh, I love that.
So that's a little bit about what I think it's going to show me, a whole bunch of more things as the year goes on. Mm-hmm. But that's what showed up for me.
Oh, I love
How
that.
about you? Do
Well,
you
and
have one?
I do, and it came from Kim's deck also, which it's just yeah, it just kills me. But deepen, when I hear deepen too, I think of like deepening relationships and like with ourselves and with others and with, the universe
Yes.
and all the things. Um, so mine is shine. And
That's right.
and it came from, so I pulled 3 cards on January 1st because I was just like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Like, this past month has kicked my ass. And I manifest, and it was so funny because I was on a call with some people today, and I'm a manifester. I'm manifesting generator,
Yeah.
whatever. We're the same thing, generating manifester.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing is, and manifesting generator. And
Yeah.
I used to just be able to go like this, right? And it'd be like, snap my fingers and I could manifest whatever.
Wow.
And now it's been like, like, like
Crickets.
yeah, like that little spark that just, and it's been weird because I hadn't been able to manifest stuff. And of course I, sent a message to Kim, and she's like, you need to, open your arms and say, I'm, open to receiving. Right. So I did this little thing and I was like, okay, I am fully open to receiving and blah, blah, blah. And then January 1st came and I said, I'm going to pick a couple of cards. So I picked 3 cards because when Kim and Krista and I shared a house, we did like a little thing, and she picked 3. She said, pick 3 cards. So I picked 3 cards, and funnily enough, it was in this order: brilliance, love, and shine.
Ooh.
And I was like, the one word that I think combined all of it was shine. And shine to me means to shine my light onto others because I'm a light worker, right? So shine my light and my love and my knowing or wisdom and my healing on others. And also to shine and get on more stages. So, and one of my goals this year was speaking. So, I saw that and I went, of course. And it's Kim, so of course. And Kim, I think, if this is going in the order I think it is, Kim was on last week. So I think it's going to go in that order. So Kim and then you. But yeah, I never did a word of the year before.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, okay.
Nope. I was always like, who needs a word of the year?
So what do you think you're going to do with it? How is it going to help you or guide you?
Wow. I'm supposed to be doing the interview. I'm going to ask you the same question. I think that, well, just what I said, like shining my light more. I have a lot of, I don't want to say love to give. I mean, it is love, but I think there's we're in a kind of entering into a dark space. We've been there a while. And you can't fight darkness with light, right? Like you can't walk into darkness and go, here's all the light and I'm going to shine all the light and break through the darkness. And, that's going to make the darkness go away. You can't do that because when you fight darkness with light, you're fighting, and darkness feeds on fighting, right? But if you kind of stick your head in there a little and shine your light that way and help people how you can and spread the light that way, it can't help but break the darkness up and allow more light to go in. And I think if all of us light workers do that, the darkness doesn't stand a chance. So that's
Wow.
what I plan. What about you?
Wow. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Iris. That's really cool.
Thanks.
That's going to stick with me, I think. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly right now how Deepen is going to work for me, but it just feels like I'm being called to go deeper, more authentic, to maybe shine my light in a way that I haven't so much. I've kept certain parts of myself pretty hidden. And a lot of that is my more woo beliefs and talking about that stuff.
Right.
Just the way I see things and the way I understand energy, much in the way you're talking about it, where everything is energy.
Oh.
And so,
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about that I haven't really talked about. It's not like I post on social media about that every day, but, I want to go deeper into some things. I'm starting a new series called Let's Get Real, which is like, let's talk about some stuff that might be the elephant in the room. Let's open this stuff up and talk about it, which is a lot of what we do here in my business. Is a lot of the books that we help produce are talking about the elephants in the room. They're talking about stuff that we don't talk about all the time. And I think that's really, really important. It's taking things up out of the dark and bringing them into the light.
See?
Yeah. So yeah. I think we got a lot in common going on this year.
You think? Like
surprise
between us. I love that. I love bringing that's so awesome, because I think and I don't want this to be all doom and gloom, like, oh my God, there's so much darkness and but there is a lot of heaviness in the world right now. And there are some people that don't think so. They think that everything is all hunky dory until they're going to find out that it's not. But, those of us who know, right? And I really feel honored and grateful that I have that gift, that I do know, because that gives us the tool that we need, right, to break through that darkness, right? Like you were saying, bring it out from under. And I'm talking about kind of like sticking my head. Yeah, I see this like cartoon where it's like, hello. But it's like there's so many light workers waking up that are being called to wake up. And Kofi can tell you, like, he's got to be laughing at this point, because every single person that I have met in the last 2.5 years, actually probably the last 4 years, but since he's been aware of it, but it has been about 4 or 5 years, has been a light worker or leaning toward that, and they need a little nudge, and I'm that little nudge, or whatever. And there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of us out there. And there are people out there that are doing this amazing good work that don't even realize that what they're doing is part of that collective, right? It's just like this collective consciousness of goodness and love and light and acceptance and just, all of it. So, which I just think is so cool. So so this is about your journey. So you have the business Unleashing Your Inner Author, which is like a self-publishing, like teaching people how to self-publish. But let's do your bio, because I didn't read the bio on purpose, because I wanted you to talk about yourself. So go for it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So my business is Unleash Your Inner Author, and I help visionary leaders leave their legacy in print. So this is like making your author dreams come true. If you've ever dreamed of writing a book, this is for those people who have really important things to say, right? This is world-changing stuff. It's mostly light workers. Some would describe themselves that way, others wouldn't. But they really are. So I love to start with people at the very beginning, at their idea stage, before they've written the book. Because if you've never written a book before, you don't know how. And it's hard to know where to start. And that's where most people get stuck, is in the starting, right? So I love to help people get clear, write the book, and then do all the publishing stuff so that they can have their printed book in hand and have it start changing the world.
That's so cool. So how did you get started? Like, what was your journey to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is I became a believer in transformation early on when I was a kid. Because, I had always heard this stuff, oh, people can't change. And once you're the way you are, that's it. That's just the way you are. And I saw that wasn't true through my dad actually overcoming his addiction.
Wow.
So that was pretty inspirational to me. And I tell that story in my new book, Unleash Your Impact, behind me. So the other thing was I was a writer and editor for a lot of years. I worked for other businesses, right? So I told their stories and wrote about their products and all that stuff. So then when it came time for me to write my first book, which is called The Gratitude Connection, I had to learn how to speak in my voice. I had to even figure out what that was. Mm-hmm. So I learned so much through that process of finding my voice and seeing how I was writing something. And sometimes it sounded like me, like you and I talking. And other times it sounded like a procedural manual, which is what I would have been doing at work, right? So it was really an interesting process to find my voice and bring it to the world and overcome all those fears of actually being vulnerable and speaking my truth and that kind of stuff. So I learned all the hard things by creating my own book. And then people started coming to me and saying, hey, I want to write a book. How do I do it? Where do I start and all this stuff? So I put together a program and started teaching it, and it just grew from there. So that was about almost 10 years ago.
Wow. So then
yeah.
What led from 10 years ago to now?
Yeah. So I just started helping people and started growing I built a course so that you'd have a curriculum to follow along with coaching with me, to actually, so I review people's work. I help them become better writers and more organized, so it's hard to tell your own story sometimes because what do you share and what do you not share? And how do you keep the pace? How do you keep it interesting for your readers and all that kind of stuff? So I started teaching all that kind of stuff, and it really blossomed into this beautiful program and has created all these books that are behind me.
That's
so
amazing.
it's,
I love that.
basically my job is helping people make their dream come true.
I love that.
And help spread. I always say that my mission is to raise the positive vibration of the planet. And so each of these books does that for the people who they're meant for.
I love that. And I know you're helping Kim with her book, which is amazing, which I didn't know.
That's
I heard that
awesome.
and I was like, of course. So that is so awesome because I think everybody has a book in them, right? But I don't think everybody is comfortable telling their story. So I know years ago, my friend Annie, she passed away, which still pisses me off, at 56. But she and I were friends for, holy crap, 20-something years. And, we would Skype and, talk as often as we could. And, my life story is that's like a whole nother, thing. And Joe,
Speaking of writing a book.
I know, right? And so she goes, you need to write a book. And I was like, no, you need to write my book. Like, we'll talk and and we were going to do that, but she passed. And
Oh,
so, sorry. Whew, didn't expect that. But, when she did, it was like, it was funny because, I was sad and I was, angry that she was so young, and, how it happened and everything. And then, like 6 months into it, I was talking to her, and I actually have this ring, because this ring is like her family crest. Her name was Anne Lee Wallace, and she was a descendant of the Wallace in Braveheart, like the Wallace, like she's a
wow.
direct descendant. Yeah. So this tree of life was her, thing, and so I bought this ring in, homage to her, so that she's just always with me. But so 6 months after, I looked up and I was like, if you wanted to get out of writing the book, we just had to talk about it, right? We could have just had a conversation. It was the first time I was able to like laugh about it.
Yeah.
But but I feel that everybody that I meet, and all of my guests on this podcast, right, their stories are so amazing, and it's like, I really believe that there's a book in everybody, and it's just a matter of, do they get it out? How do they get it out? And, will they ever get it out? I think there are so many amazing stories that go untold.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, everybody, that's why I always talk about your unique perspective, because people will say, oh, somebody's already written about this topic before, but they haven't written about it from your point of view, and nobody could. So writing your own story is, AI can't tell it. Somebody else can help you tell it.
Right.
But no, it's nobody else's story, right? Because you have all your own experiences and traumas and ideas and how you've processed those. So anything that you are going through is processed through all those filters, right? Which is absolutely unique. And that's how we get aha moments. We read about somebody's experience and what they took away from it. And you realize, oh, maybe there's a different way to look at that. Maybe there's a different way I could process this, or I could figure this out, or there's just a different possibility in life for me. And that's what's so beautiful about people telling their stories. It creates that deep human connection that might actually create transformation for other people.
Ooh. And that's so powerful. It's just so powerful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I remember my friend Anita wrote a book, and it's called, I have to look it up. She's going to get so pissed at me. I can't remember it, but it was, oh goodness. It was about her journey with her mother, who had passed. But it was just like one of the most, you ruined my life and you stole my bra. And Anita,
what a great title.
Her name's Anita Finley. She's an actress. She was I think like Days of Our Lives. I don't know. She was on like soap operas, and she's a character actor, right? And she's just one of the most loving, funny people that I know. And she wrote this book, and she sent it to me, before it got into print. And I remember reading it and just being like, I was crying my eyes out, because so much of it mirrored my relationship with my mother.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't think about that, but it was that every book takes you on your journey with that story.
Exactly.
Right. Everybody reads the same book, but they get something different from it. And I think that's what you're talking about, your unique perspective. And so when I, look at that, and the book is actually over there, I get this like, oh my God, they grew up in New York and, just so many similarities. But, oh gosh, I feel like, getting back to entrepreneurship, anybody who's started a business has a freaking book in them.
Right.
Right. I mean, just that journey alone is just like, oh my God, like how they got there and stuff. So everybody behind you is an entrepreneur.
Pretty much. Yes. And even if you're not already, when you write a book, then you got to market your book. You got to become an entrepreneur if you're not already.
Yes.
It really is kind of a
do you help
business
with the marketing piece also, or like what?
Yes, I have partners who on my team who help with that. So,
Cool.
but I want to circle back to something you said, Iris, which is that you saw yourself in your friend's story, because that's what we do when we read. When we read, particularly nonfiction books, we're reading somebody else's story. And I know some of my authors, when they're about halfway or so done with their book, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired of talking about myself. Does anybody really care about my story? And you just nailed it. You said, you saw yourself, you can't help but run it through your own experience. When somebody's writing about a story, you're thinking, oh, well, yeah, I did something like that, or I can relate to that in some way. And so it becomes personal. It becomes your story.
Right.
So when you see it through somebody else's eyes, you're actually seeing yourself in a fresh way. So that's why we keep reading books. That's why there's a million self-help books out there, and personal development, spiritual growth, all that stuff, because we're really looking to understand ourselves better. And when we do that, we can understand other people better. So bringing our story to life has a lot of gifts, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who reads it, because it's really their unique story. They're just seeing themselves through your eyes.
See, and that's just so powerful. I just, Anita, if you're listening. But really anybody, right? I mean, and I feel that way with this podcast. So, funny story about the podcast was I almost completely changed it to being, hey, you should solve somebody's marketing problem and show them your expertise and monetize it and blah, 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 blah. And I was this close to doing it because they're like, why aren't you making money from your podcast? Why aren't you doing this? Why is it an expenditure and not? And, they're like, I know it's your baby, but, you got to let it go and you got to move. And I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. Because if I do, then I don't get to bring people on to tell their story. And for me, this is about, because I did a lot of like meditating as much as I meditate, but, thinking and, looking inward on what's important to me. And what's important to me is that I know that every single person who's on my show, there's one person out there who's listened that had some kind of a moment, right? Where it was just like, oh shit, I've been thinking about this, or I've been looking for this, or, whatever. And I feel that if I don't continue doing what I do, I'm taking that away from somebody. And I don't want to do that. Because I truly believe that my purpose of being on this planet is to be of service, not to be walked on of service, but to be of service and to help and to help heal and to bring messages, and this is all part of that. So why in the hell am I going to chop this up and make it something that, so I'm not going to, it's staying the way it is. Don't worry. I'll do some stuff, but it's staying the way it is. And speaking of which, this is about entrepreneurship. So, what, being an entrepreneur and working with the amount of entrepreneurs that you've worked with, what advice do you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a great question. I think entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I think you have to have a pretty high tolerance for risk. You have to be able to be flexible. And I think, wow, this just dropped in. Something that I learned is that you have to really deeply understand who you want to serve. So that's a process that I take my authors through too. Who are you actually talking to? Because I think I see this in authors and I see it in entrepreneurs when they first start. And it was true for me too. I didn't know exactly who I was talking to or who I wanted to talk to or who most needed my help, And so it took a while to figure that out. So what really cinched it for me was doing some market research. And you can do this if you're looking at being an entrepreneur or if you're a new sort of floundering around entrepreneur, do some market research. And that's like asking people who are your potential clients. This is not a pitch. It's not a sales call. It's actually just asking them some deep questions about what their business is about, what they need, how they like to receive help, and what their stumbling blocks are. So when I did that, I thought I knew what my clients' biggest issues were. And I was wrong. I was just flat out not getting it right. It was, I was on the right, I was in the area, but what they told me was much simpler than I was making it. Mm-hmm. And it was basically, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to start. I heard that from countless people that I interviewed, because we all have this idea that we should either know how to just start a business or that we should know how to sit down and write a book. Just do it. Right? But there's a lot to it. And if you don't have the right personality for it, to be able to do it on your own, and I think very few of us do without some support, we'll figure it out eventually, but it might take a lot of tripping around. So if you want to avoid some of that, get some help and get really clear on what your audience needs.
I love that. I love that you said that. Hang on, I have to move my... It is so cold in here. I just needed to move my heater a little so that it hits my butt and warms me up. Oh, man. What's funny about it, or not funny, but 80% of the clients that I meet with, and I say, so do you know your target? Oh, yeah, I know who my target is. Okay, who are they? And then they tell me, and I'm like, okay. And then I ask more questions. And by the time we're done, they had no idea who their target was. And it's not a bad thing, because when you're so close to something, it's like if people start businesses and they think either they think they know why, or they're like, I have this thing and I want to sell it to people, whatever whether it's a product, whatever. And they kind of have an idea of who they want to sell it to. But you're right. If you don't do that research and be like, well, who needs this? And is there somebody out there who's doing this better? So is there a need for it? If there is somebody out here doing it, how can I do it better so that it becomes a new need or a new, need. or a new product that people are going to be like, oh, well, this is kind of like that, but whoa, this is like way better, right? So, like, there's like a million examples out there, and I think that is where people get tripped up. And, for you to say that, that's my favorite question to ask on this podcast, is because nobody answers the same. I think I had two people that were similar, but because it's different for everybody, right? It's like, when people are first starting out, they think they know why they're doing it, or they're just doing it to doing it, or to do it rather. They're just like, I want to start a business. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. And then a year in, they're like, wait, but, my first 2 months were great, but now I may have to find a job.
Right.
And it's like, because you didn't do your research, or, you just were like, oh, I'm going to sell stuff, but people don't like being sold to anymore. So you can't just go out and sell something to somebody, like I can't just, well, I mean, we had the conversation, but it wasn't like, I want to sell you a website. Like when you and I sat down, that wasn't even, it came up, but that wasn't the reason that we sat down. We sat down to meet and just talk and get to know each other, and,
right.
What came out and what I did came out, and then, it is what it is. But for people to just, sit down and be like, okay, I have this thing and you need it, and I'm going to sell it to you, and that doesn't fly anymore.
No, thanks.
Right? People do not want to be sold to anymore, and people don't understand that. And I'm sure you get the same thing. In LinkedIn, you probably get the same amount of things that I get that says, hey, I noticed you're a marketing company. I can, what if I tell you that I can get you 30 sales appointments in a month, and I won't charge you until I actually get you 30. And I feel like, fuck you. What makes you think that I want just 30 random people?
Yeah.
Oh, I just said, well, anyway, but that's how I feel. It's like, I'm a heart-centered business. If I don't care about you, if I don't care about what you're doing or how you're helping people, I can't help you grow your business. I don't want to help you grow your business.
Yeah.
And that's why that, the call that I had, on Tuesday was so like, I don't cry on phone calls. We were like, both like, just crying, and it's like sitting here talking about, the person who the foundation was for, and, just like all of this stuff. To me, that's the meat of it. Working with people that make a difference for people, not somebody who, just wants to sell, I don't know, watches or whatever, right? Or somebody who wants to sell, a service, or sales as a service, or, whatever. That's not it. And I think people need to realize that too, is that people just don't want to be sold to anymore. And you tell people that, and they're like, well, why not? And I'm like, what if I met you right off the bat, and not you, but, hey, Joe, I'm Iris, and I sell website, I do websites and SEO and a whole bunch of other things, and you need my services, so we should start working together now. You're going to tell me to go pound salt. Doesn't work anymore. Yeah. So there's, and I think more businesses, except for the larger conglomerates that just care about numbers, are moving to that model. It's like, if I don't know you, could you imagine Kim working with somebody that she, I'm sorry, I can't even say it without laughing.
Well, I think it's, like you said earlier in the interview, you said this new person that you're working with is so aligned, right? That's an important thing to look for, whether you're selling something, you're offering a service or product, and the person who's buying it, who needs it, right? There's got to be an alignment. And when there is, it's kind of magical, right? I mean, that's why we do what we do,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
like, oh, thank goodness, finally somebody who gets me and can help me bring this thing to the world.
Yeah.
And help me, get more visible and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we share that, and that's what we do for people.
Yeah.
And when they can actually see that we get it, we care, and we're going to do our utmost for them, then it's like, oh, wow, well, this is different than some person on LinkedIn said, hey, you should buy this from me.
No, I shouldn't. And I love when they get the name wrong. I put a post up on LinkedIn. This was like awesome, like October, and it said like they asked to like connect, and the initial connection email was really nice. I was like, absolutely, and then it was like something like, hey Ashram, I'm so glad that you accepted my connection. And I'm like, who the fuck is Ashram? And I wrote this thing, and I said, who the hell is, and then I, blocked them. But it's like, once you speak to that person, the connection has to continue. It can't just be like this thing. And I remember when we were in the meeting, at the end, she said, well, we were talking to 3 agencies, one hasn't called back, and we're supposed to have a meeting with the third, but I think we're done here. And I said, oh, and I think I took it wrong. I was like, oh, no, go ahead. I get it. You need to talk to other people. And she said, no, we're done looking like this. We want to work with you. And I was like, oh, awesome. And then I started like crying more. I was like, thank you so, this is going to be amazing. This is, and it was like this, it was just this crazy thing. And we got done with our call, and I was just like, thank you. Thank you for not only listening that I was open to receiving, but bringing the right freaking person to me.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, every single person that I work with now, it's so funny. Every single person that I now work with, we're all aligned.
Yeah.
The one that wasn't is gone, and the one that hurt was Canadian, and the exchange rate was just too hard for her. But I would have loved to continue to help her because her journey was just fascinating. So that was a hard one.
Yeah.
But I think there was a reason for it, right? So everything happens.
There always is.
Yeah. So, and maybe we'll work again. Who knows? But, so you have, let's talk about that at the end so that stays on people's minds. Because I'm going to get at, but I want that to be like the last thing that they hear. So they're like, oh, okay, cool. So I guess, people listening to this, well, let's do it this way. What's an obstacle that you've overcome as an entrepreneur?
Ooh.
There are
so many to choose from.
I know, right? But there are seasoned entrepreneurs that are listening to this going, that may be going through something right now that you've gone through and you've come through the other end of, or maybe going through something that you're going through, or any of that.
Right. Yeah. So the first thing that pops into my mind when you ask that question, Iris, is early on, this is in my first couple of years. I had some success, had published some books, things were going okay, but then I kind of hit this point where it was just really slow. And I was talking to people, but nothing was happening, and I met, this is another synchronous thing, where I met this woman at a networking event, and she mentioned that her husband was a sales coach. And I really liked her and connected with her. And I thought, well, her husband's probably got to be pretty cool. I said, let's set up a call. I'd like to talk to him about, this. So I hired him as my coach. First time I was coached in business. And it made all the difference. Made all the difference to me because I was making all those sort of classic newbie mistakes where I was very excited about the features of my program, and I was listing the features of my program instead of like really building that relationship and finding out, Iris, what do you need? What are your particular things that might trip you up, and how can I sort of customize and build this program for you to help draw that out and help you overcome your issues, right? Very much more sort of intimate and personalized, building that relationship. So he really pointed that out to me. He's like, you just can't jump into the features. Nobody cares about that until they care about having a connection with you. Right. I mean, because writing a book is an intimate process.
Oh, yeah.
We get to know each other really well. And I always hear the backstory behind the story, right? That's not going to end up in the book. And so I need to be able to hold the space, and the person needs to know that I can help them with it, that they can trust me with that, So that's where we got to be at, which is really where I like to play anyway. That's it's just building a friendship, just like you and I sat down for 5 hours during dinner and got to know each other. We're like, oh my God, we have so much in common, right? It's that kind of thing in business too. Like you said, it's not about like, oh, here, let me sell you something, or, yes, we're going to get to an outcome because you produce a book during this process, but it's not about that. It's about the transformation. And they've got to know that they're going to get that, and they're going to be able to deliver that through this book with me as their guide. So that was pretty interesting. And I was like, okay, I can do that. It's like I had to have permission kind of to be myself and to build those relationships authentically the way I would want to anyway. So that was huge for me. That gave me the foundation of like, oh yeah, okay, this is great. And, there's been many, many other things that I've overcome and that I see all of my clients overcome during their, imposter syndrome. And that happens in scaling. So if you're a more experienced business, I bet you've experienced this too, Iris, is when you say, I'm going to increase my prices. I'm going to change my clientele. I'm going to, go after different industries or different people. I might have to approach it a little bit differently. And it's really leveling yourself up. And that's always a challenge. And it brings those barriers with it of like, can I deliver enough value to charge that much? Yeah. Can I really do this? Can I keep at this? Can I keep going? Can I scale to a higher level? Can I hire people and all those kinds of things? Each new level is a new challenge, and you might need something different, and you might need different people to help support you in those areas. Yeah. So it's a constant growth pattern, which I love because we have to grow personally before we can bring that into our business and grow our business.
Oh, 100%. And I think, my favorite saying is that if you really want to get to know who you are, become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I say the fastest path to personal development is
there you
starting your own business or writing a book. They're both about the same.
And it's like, I love all that because I think that, and imposter syndrome can also hit when you have a bad month.
True.
Right? So like in December, I was literally like, this is going to sound really like full of hubris, and it's not, or it's not meant to, but everyone's like, oh, imposter syndrome. And I was like, I don't have that. December, I had a lot of it. December, yes. It was like, the universe was like, haha. You have another lesson to learn. And it was imposter syndrome. It was like, am I really as good at this as I think I am. Like, people don't leave me. Like, people are leaving me. Like, I don't know, I don't get it. And it became about me, which I never personalize it. And I completely like internalized it.
Wow.
To the point that it was just like I was sad probably most of December, and I'm not a sad person. Yeah, it was just like my little spark, like I said, was like it was gone. Like, and I was like, wait a minute, where's my light? Like, where's my? And I was like burning candles left and freaking right, with like different oils in it and doing different, affirmations and manifestations and blah blah blah, the whole thing. And looking inward and going, what is it? What is it about, me? And then I think like the last week of December, we just got back from my in-laws, and I woke up, and usually I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror. I think I told you this. I look in the mirror every morning, and I hadn't. Every morning it's like, hey, I love you. Go out and slay it. And if you don't, you will tomorrow. So just have a great day. And I stopped doing that. Yeah. And so I was like, what is missing? So I did that morning. And then I was like, enough of this shit. What is wrong with you? You know your stuff. You know you're good. You had a bad month. You're human. Oh my God. Newsflash, you're human. You're not superhuman. You have all these amazing gifts, and you can do this, and you can move mountains. Yeah. But you are human, and you are going to have a bad month. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you had a bad month. And when I was able to get back to that mindset, it shifted everything. And I was like, where the hell were you in December? But I think I had to go through it.
Yeah.
And I had to get to the other side of it to be able to go, not that I'm never going to feel that again. I'm sure I will. But now I think it won't last as long, because I'll be able to remember to remind myself, you're not 100% perfect. And things aren't it's not necessarily about you. It's about somebody else.
Right.
So that was a cool lesson from last year. Yeah, because it was just like, what do you mean this isn't like? What do you mean this isn't happening? And there's a lot of people out there that I think that has to happen to kind of bring back down to earth and be like, we're not in the fifth dimension, we're here, so we kind of have to do what we have to do here to make things to make things work, and to kind of stay in touch with our humanity. And realize that, I met with somebody last week. Yes, the 9th. So it was like, actually it was Friday. It was like the first work day, who was having this issue of, I've been in business for 8 years, and I'm starting to wonder, what the hell am I doing?
Oh, wow.
And why am I doing it? And the first thing I said was, what was your why?
Ooh, good coaching, Iris.
I know, right? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, what was the original catalyst or impetus for you to start? And she started talking it through, and it was, to help people, and to help people grow, and to help people get out of there. And she went, fuck. She was just like, to help people get out of their funk. And I was just like, welcome to my world. And so, we talked about it. And, now she's back on that path. I mean, she's not ready to do anything because she got hit financially pretty hard. So she's, in the process of kind of like rebuilding. And I'm kind of helping her on a personal level because, it's not always about money for me. Like I'm not building her a website. I'm not, doing whatever,
Right.
but I'm kind of being there as a cheerleader, as a, you've got this, you know, and I love that. I just,
Yeah.
for me, when I do that, that almost gives me more purpose. It's like, if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I wouldn't be in the position to be able to be that cheerleader. If I wasn't in the right mindset, I couldn't be
Right.
that cheerleader.
Well, and also, do you feel like going through some of those tough times like you just did gives you some perspective to be able to help others? Yeah.
Well, don't we say that we go through stuff so other people don't have to?
Yeah. That's why we write books too, just like share that wisdom. So, because you don't want anybody to go through the pain that you've gone through if you can help them avoid it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we still have to just to learn the lesson.
Yep.
But, even to know that you're not alone on that journey, that other people have gone through it, other people have felt the same crappy way you feel right now, or whatever, whatever you're dealing with and whatever is going on for you, that, sometimes it's just nice to know you're not the only one on the planet who's ever felt that way.
Yeah. And it's easy to feel that you are when you're going through it, right? You're
so much.
Yeah.
Right. We go right to imposter syndrome. We go right to what is wrong with me, instead of like, that's kind of a human condition, or it's just part of our path, or, you have a bad month every once in a while. Like I was talking with a client yesterday, and she's an excellent writer. She writes this magical stuff that just flows. It just, when you read something, it just kind of pulls you in, and you're just, time stops, right? Good writing does that for you, where just time stops and you're just in it and you're totally in the present moment. She writes like that 90% of the time. And so she had this piece. She said, something's wrong with it. It's just not like my normal. She says, can you take a look at it? So I took a look at it, and it was really choppy. Like it had moments of magic in there, but it didn't all fit together. So we started looking at it, and I'm asking her questions. I said, what are you trying to do for your reader in this piece? What do you want them to take away from it? And she said what it was. And I said, okay, well, it seems like you have two separate pieces here and they don't fit.
Mm.
And she said, you know what happened? I got insecure and I started over explaining. And I felt like I had to give all this backstory to it. It was really, really interesting because she went right to, it's not good enough. So I've got to add a bunch of stuff here. And it didn't fit.
But less is more, right? Like I always say, less is more sometimes.
Yeah. So she was able, I could see, something was wrong with it, but I couldn't know from the inside out what was going on for her. But once I started bringing it up, she was like, that's what I did. It's like an imposter syndrome kind of insecurity that she went to this other way of writing that she was familiar with. I had never seen it from her before.
Wow.
So it was really interesting how these things come up, and we go right to, we go into our programming and we try to make up for, we try to, prove that we're good enough, or we shrink and think we're not good enough. And
yeah. Well, there's always
all that stuff.
Somebody said that we're programmed to think negative. Like our programming is just to automatically go to that negative place. And in order to retrain our brains to not go there. And I think that when we fall into that, like my December, right? I just fell right back into that trap.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're in it, man, you're in it, and you're like,
you can't see out of it.
No, you're looking up going, how the fuck did I get down here?
Yeah.
Like, how did I get back down here? And now how do I, man, it's a long way up. How do I get out of this thing? And sometimes it's just a matter of levitating and just kind of going, okay, I'm going to, rise above. I don't know where that one came from. Okay, thank you.
Levitating. I love that.
Okay. Um, it- but yeah, I just, okay. So you have a cohort coming up, shockingly called Unleash Your Inner Author Cohort. Those are your words, not mine. So,
Hey, you said keep it simple, you know?
so tell us about it. What is it about?
Yeah, so it's my coaching program for helping people get the book out of their head and onto the page. And it's taught in a really small, intimate group so that we're all kind of doing this together, so supporting each other and getting to those places where we need to go to write that book. So I love it. I get really excited about my cohorts because this small group just bonds so much. And just like we do, you know, in conversations in our little breakout rooms in the dames or wherever it is, where it's a safe space that you can create. You can come and you can create and you can talk through all your imposter syndrome and all the things and gain the clarity that you need to bring your important message to the world. So that's
awesome.
Yeah, the goal is to write the book, get a first draft of your book in it's about 16 weeks.
Ooh, that's amazing. So what's the we'll scroll the link, so you'll give us the link, but what are the dates?
Yeah, so it starts end of February. I have to look at my calendar and see exactly when it is. But it's so February, end of February. Thanks for your patience. So starts the 28th of February.
Oh, cool.
And
so this will have aired. This will air before that. So sign up if you have a book in you, or if you think you have a book in you. I'll be ready next year.
Yeah, we'll talk about it and we'll figure out if you're, I want to talk to people first. Just find out, if we're aligned, if we're a good fit, if my program can actually help you bring your book to the world. That's the goal.
Cool. That's amazing. Yeah. And you and I will talk probably in 2026 about my book that's in there somewhere.
Unless it starts nudging at your brain before then.
It may, but I really want to get through 2025 first because I want to see how much of a shit show this is going to be. And not to be negative, I don't want to be negative, but somebody's already wanting to call, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. I can't even, what the fuck is that? What is that?
I saw that headline and I was like, is this The Onion? Is this a joke?
No, this is, if you remember The Onion, and I will never forget this when, 8 years ago when they were occupying the space, The Onion had a headline in it and it said, Onion going out of business because we cannot make up anything better than what the reality is. And it was every
day. You can't make this stuff up.
No, every day. And it was like they counted how many lies, like 3,000, 4,000, however many, lies that there were. And yeah. So I want to get through 2025 sanely and still have my sanity around me. And you're right, it may be before, maybe when we're in Denver in October, right? Or when I'm in Denver in October.
Right. I'm here for you whenever you're ready.
I know you are. I know you are. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak, because I know you're jam-packed. Your links will be in the show notes, but where can people find you?
Yeah, unleashyourinnerauthor.com is the best way to find me. You can contact me there. You can apply for the program and find out all about it there.
Cool. And you're on LinkedIn and...
Facebook. I have a Facebook group for aspiring authors, so you don't have to be published yet. You can come join us and There's free resources and all kinds of good information and awesome people to connect with there. It's called Positively Powered Authors.
Oh, I love that. Well, an awesome person is running the Awesome People group, so that. And I can't believe we're over an hour already. But okay, so the last question that I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
Ooh, what lights my fire? Oh, the word that pops up for me is transformation. I'm all about, really helping people get to that place of transformation. So I'm reading the book Awe right now, AWE, Awe. And that's what happens when real, like something, that aha moment that changes your life hits you. You're in that place of awe.
Wow.
That's when like something is shifted in you, right? So that's what can happen when people tell their stories and kind of open the door to possibilities to people who need it. Like you, Iris, when you were in that down place, if somebody could have lifted you up in that moment and, sort of shown you the light that you ended up seeing on your own, that's you changed in that moment. That's transformation. So I feel like that's what I'm in the business of is sharing the magic of transformation.
Ooh,
so obviously I get a little sparkly about that when I talk about it. So that's what lights me up.
There you go. And deepening the transformation. Oh,
yes.
See what I did there?
Yeah, all the things I love, positivity, gratitude, transformation, yep. Deepen goes with all of those, right? So it brings it full circle.
There you go. All right, hang on. Yeah. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and I'll be right back. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out an hour plus again. I don't know how you do it, but I do. It goes by so quickly. And my guests are amazing, right? They're all amazing. If you didn't in the beginning, now click the subscribe button and the little bell so that you get reminders of when the next episode is going to be. I appreciate you all. I am so grateful that this is season 4. What? It still blows my mind. But I appreciate each and every one of you. If there was a nugget that you got from listening, leave it in the comments below. And for now, I'm going to sign off. But before I do, till next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.